Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to Going Live with Global Science Show. My name is Sam. I'm going to make sure that you can actually see what we're talking about. Global Science Show. There we go. That's us. My name is Sam. I'm the coordinator and founder of the Global Science Show. And today we're here to have a chat with another science communicator, get to know them, and let you find out who they are and potentially follow them on Twitter, work with them in the future. Just find out about all the lovely people that are working in science communication. Today we have Dr. Jo Montgomery taking part. We're going to get her in just a second. We're going to talk about careers. We're going to talk about science communication. We're going to talk about the switch to working online. Before we get going, this is open to anyone at all to take part in. So if you ever want to be a guest on this show, we'll call it a show. Is it a show? It's a chat show. You can let us know through Twitter. Or whatever else you're watching. Leave us a comment, send us a DM. We would love to have you on. Right, enough from me. I'm now going to get on our guest for today. It's Jo. Hello, Jo.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here to get to share a cuppa at lunchtime with you.
I know I've already had quite a few coffees this morning, so I'm just on water rather than coffee, because otherwise I will be up all night. Thank you so much for coming along and joining us. I just want to know who you are and what you do, basically. So can you tell us that?
Okay, so this isn't just an excuse to be nosy. Yeah, so my name's Jo, and I'm a primary science specialist, and I sit really at that interface between science or science communication and education. And the majority of the stuff that I do, well, I say at the moment, but obviously kind of in pre-COVID times, is running fun and engaging curriculum-linked hands-on workshops for children, and supporting teacher professional development as well. So I work with a number of organisations supporting teachers as well as delivering directly to children.
So we'll jump right in there in terms of, obviously the world is very different. So what does that mean for like now? How are you approaching things in the world that we're currently living in?
So obviously things are very, very different. Obviously, children in Scotland recently started to go back to school, some of them, and that's happening very soon down here in England as well. And but apart from that, the last 12 months have been really, really quite odd. We've got, schools have never closed. They've still got some of their children in school, some accessing learning from home, and teachers really having to navigate that hybrid model of education, which puts increasing pressures on what is already a very challenging profession, actually. The way that I've changed what I do in the last 12 months is that there was a very rapid scramble to put things online, actually. And I found that particularly in the first lockdown back last March, that primary schools were not necessarily delivering live as much as secondary schools were, and that there was a real a need for content, actually, to support teachers, but also directly to help families as well. And so the first thing I did actually in the first lockdown was just put together a whole list of resources and places that people could go to, either families or teachers as well, to find sources of support, and things that they could directly deliver to children.
I remember when you were putting that together at the beginning, actually, and it was just so nice to see that the things were all in one place. Because, as you say, there was so many different things happening and not a coordinated place for them all to live. So that was just such a good thing to have on there. How do you think that schools are managing to adopt this new way of working a bit more now? Obviously, I think it's obviously something that hasn't been talked about enough, is that schools actually weren't closed. The kids were still going, and how you managed to have that hybrid between the two. Does it feel like schools are starting to adapt much more to that now?
I think definitely in this second lockdown, with some children at home and some in school, I think everybody's kind of got into the stride of how to manage that and how to make it work. There's lots of discussions around how best to manage that hybrid model when you've got some children in and some not. But there are almost as many ways of managing that as there are different schools, actually, and obviously not just in the UK, but also worldwide. But I think yes, we're seeing much more quality provision and people being able to harness the platforms and the applications that are available to them as well. And I think we've also seen a rapid evolution in those platforms in the last 12 months as well. You know, things like Zooms and Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom have really upped their game actually during this process.
Yeah, I've used all three of them with teachers, and I can't imagine having to be a teacher and having to use multiple different platforms all the time. I hate having to move between them as much as possible. So I can't imagine how tough that must have been, especially having to get your pupils to be using them as well. So I want to go a wee bit further back and think about you've had quite a convoluted career, lots of interesting things along the way, and you were a postdoc at one point. But now you've moved into education. Was there a major driver for that, or like, how did that change come about?
I think I've probably never had a definitive roadmap of where my career was going or what I wanted to do. I've always just done things that interest me. I've always been a bit of a polymath as well. So whilst I am absolutely passionate about science, I did my A levels. I did biology, chemistry, French, and Latin. Now, I know in the Scottish education system you do a range of hires anyway, but down here in England you tend to only do 3 A levels really, and that they tend to all kind of fit in a coherent set. So I was quite unusual in not doing the 3 sciences because that's the route I was going in, and so I've always kind of liked a bit of variety and done things in different directions as well. But I was quite early on sort of guided down, I suppose, an academic route. I absolutely loved studying biology at university, and was fortunate enough to get a scholarship as an undergraduate to undertake a research project in a zoological collection. And it just kind of snowballed from there really into I absolutely loved research. I'm really nosy, I'm curious, I love finding new things out. And so I did a PhD, and then I did a postdoc, and that was kind of a natural progression for me really. I think there sometimes is a bit of a stigma in academia if you leave. There's kind of you feel that guilt that you didn't stay in academia, or you didn't continue on that trajectory to professorship, as it were. But it is, it's a pyramid, and the number of PhD students kind of at the bottom of that pyramid, there aren't positions kind of at the top. So you do get lots of fantastic skills from it that you can then take and apply into different places. And in fact, for my first jump from academia, from my postdoc, actually, I went to work in the pharmaceutical industry, and I worked on preclinical development and early stage clinical trials for a number of years before kind of switching into more of the education side. There's kind of convoluted story about how that came about as well.
There seems to be more and more like instances of that, and maybe some people watching this back, whether it's live or at a later time, will be PhD students who might be realizing that academia isn't for them or isn't going to be the place they want to stay. So it's really good hearing, and we hear a lot of these stories now about the ways that you can go and the different routes that there are out there for people. And science communication seems to be a really popular route for people. But I also think, as well as you saying, that there's a bit of stigma about leaving academia, and there's also a lot of discussion about, oh well, if you don't like academia, then you can always do science communication, as though it's the backup that you can go into. Which I've seen a lot of discussion about that recently, and how there's a lot of things left out of the science communication discussion about what's actually involved and what is the world of SciComm like in terms of jobs that are out there, what you can do, how badly paid a lot of it is, and how a lot of the contracts are on sugary pegs that might not last all that long. Now, you mentioned that you aren't in academia anymore, but actually you still are a little bit.
Yeah.
What sort of things are you still doing in academia? Because it seems like you're still doing a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I do still have a foot in the academia world, and it is, it's a place I feel happy and I belong as well. So I work part-time for an academic research institute near Cambridge, and I'm part of a training team, so developing and delivering training to PhD students, postdocs, principal investigators, heads of lab, scientists, research scientists. So I tend to focus kind of on the soft skills side, but I sit with a team of a lot of bioinformaticians. So I do get involved a little bit in that side of things, but not the tricky stuff.
Well, I think it's true when you said a bit of a polymath. You do things like that, and also consultancy and delivering workshops and regional champion for the Great Science Year for schools. The key word is variety. So, do you prefer a whole range of different things going on, or is that more just it's worked out that way?
No, I absolutely love the variety. I love being involved in lots of different projects, and I always have been, to be honest. So I guess that kind of, going back to that, what I said at the beginning about being a polymath and wanting to do a bit of science and a bit of something else, I guess it's always been there. And even when I was a PhD student and a postdoc, what I loved about my project was that I wasn't just solely on bench work. There's such a variety actually of things involved in research. So I worked with pigs. So my PhD is in animal welfare. So I did a lot of work spending time on a pig farm. So I'd be some of the time on the farm, I'd be some of the time in the lab, I'd be writing papers, producing posters, and I loved that variety too. So that's kind of spilled on into the different things that I do now. So I love being involved in lots of different projects. I love working with lots of different people. So the fact that I get to work with scientists in terms of training them, and also work with teachers on development, and then get to work with children as well. And get involved in all sorts of different projects, different aspects is really good fun.
I'm kind of the same. I can get quite bored quite quickly if I'm just doing one thing. So I need to have a variety of different things going on. It's so much better that way. You were working with pigs. What sort of thing were you trying to figure out with animal welfare and pigs?
So basically looking at husbandry practices and what causes stress to pigs. So things like mixing unfamiliar pigs together causes stress because they have to sort out their dominance hierarchy every time you mix them. Pigs get travel sick, so transporting them between farms and to abattoirs over long distances can be stressful for them because they get car sick. So yeah, looking at the husbandry practices, what causes issues, and ways that you can make that better.
They're definitely much more complex animals than we give them credit for, at least mainstream anyway. I love pigs. They're like dogs, really, aren't they, in terms of like intelligence and
absolutely, really intelligent, really, and individual personalities as well. Yeah.
I never really thought about them getting car sick or like travel sick. That's a great thing. I run a quiz. I'm going to put something in there about pigs and travel sickness at some point. Not sure how, but I'll do it. So I want to talk about like a lot of the Global Science Shows platform is to try and get anyone at all to take part in science communication, no matter what your background is, what experience you've got. We've had kids taking part up to professors. What sorts of advice would you give to someone who has never ventured into the world of science communication before, but is interested in doing something?
Science communication is a massive field, first of all, and it's interesting that you're saying, that people say, if I don't make it in academia, I can go into SciComm. It didn't really exist when I was first starting out in academia as a field. There was this thing that was talked about it was then called the public understanding of science, that was kind of in its early days. So it's in the last 30 years has kind of exploded into something enormous. Science communication used to be science journalism or medical writing. That was kind of it. That was all there was. And so there's so many more opportunities now, and it's just about having a go, actually building your experience. If you're a PhD student, then get involved in the public engagement that happens in your university or your research institute. If you're a 6-year-old child in the northwest of England, just point yourself at the camera and you'll create amazing things, as we've seen already with Marvelous Marthy. Science communication is about just sharing your enthusiasm and your knowledge and getting out there and doing things. And that can be in your writing, in your art, in your presentations, in making videos. There are countless opportunities.
That's 2 of these chats in a row where Marvelous Marthy has been mentioned. Clearly has made a bit of an impact on people, which is just really, really nice to see. Like, I love when you get to see kids becoming the communicator, because they tend to be, without looking for a better phrase, but they tend to be better at it than the adults a lot of the time, like, because they don't take themselves too seriously. And we've seen that with Marthy, with Libet, with people like kids like Wilf.
Yeah.
I have absolutely loved that so much, like getting to see kids develop into really, really good little science communicators. It's just really nice, and that's something that I really enjoy about the Great Science Share for Schools, which is coming up soon. Well, still a couple of months away.
It's in June. Yeah.
But it feels like that'll be here like tomorrow. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Great Science Share for Schools, actually?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Great Science Share for Schools is in its 6th year now. It's an annual campaign to encourage children aged 5 to 14 to ask scientific questions, try and find out the answers, and present their science to new audiences. Now, last year, it rapidly moved online, but prior to that, it's been basically trying to encourage events, I suppose, a little bit like science fairs, and some of them are just within one school, and others are enormous events inviting hundreds of children from different schools into huge areas to share their science more widely. It's going to be online largely again this year, although we're hoping there will be some smaller kind of hub events around the country, well, around the world, in fact. So last year, 91,000 students took part from 14 countries around the world, and it's just a fantastic way to put the onus on the children to make it very child-led and child-centered in terms of their inquiry and their questioning and their wondering about things. So it's inspiring curiosity, really. And the Great Science Share produce a huge variety of resources to help children, teachers, parents get involved. So there will be weekly themes in the 6 weeks running up to the 15th of June that are released. And last year we had things like the Dawn Chorus. There were lots of things around exploring birds around you. So there'll be a whole host of different resources around climate change and the natural world around us, and also engineering and things like that. And there will be Wonder Wednesdays, where we find out all sorts of exciting things, and lots of live lessons as well. And all of the resources are still on the website from last year's as well. So if you wanted to have a look at greatscienceshare.org, you can have a look at the resources that are there from last year. So fantastic resources available, but just an opportunity to get children involved and questioning.
I know that numbers aren't the most important thing in the world, but the number of kids that they had involved in it last year was just unbelievable. To have gone from, our whole plan has to change, to 91,000 is just like testament to how well the team have put it together.
Absolutely.
We may be working with them again this year on Global Science.
That would be exciting.
Which will be really exciting. Again, getting lots of kids to take part in the Global Science Show aspect of it as well, which is really nice. Because I think that was the first time that Marthy got involved. I think that was when she first made that first video, which is just really nice to have that as a milestone. We can look back on last June and see where she's got to now. Delivering sessions with her mum, which is just really, really fun. You mentioned about the way that they switched to online, and hopefully throughout this coming year we're going to switch back to in person again. When that'll be, June 21st, maybe, probably not. Do you think that schools will probably still look to do a bit of a hybrid in terms of who they engage with. So, like in the before times, people like yourself would go into the school to deliver something, but now we see that there's maybe not a need to actually be there. Do you think we're likely to see a bit of both, a bit of in-person, bit of digital?
I think we'll definitely see a bit of both, and I think things like the I'm a Scientist, Get Me Out of Here, which have done some in-person things, but also have been running lots of online things, and Farmer Time, so from the National Farmers Union, Farmer Tom and his band of merry farmers who zoom into classrooms. So there's you know, even pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, there were some online interactions and engagements happening, and I just think that actually this time has raised the profile of those and the benefits of them. So I think you're absolutely right. I think we'll see a bit of both. I think we'll see that hybrid model of having that willingness to engage a bit more with remote and online visitors, if you like. But there will always be a place for actual hands-on, face-to-face in a room. And I can't wait to be back engaging with children in person. It has been so lovely to still be able to have those interactions on my screen. It has been kind of the savior for me of lockdown. But I can't wait to actually safely and happily be in a classroom with children again.
There is something just really nice about, like, especially when you get them to like, take part in an experiment, that they design the different variables of it and they come up with what they think is going to be the outputs. It's much more. I've always found it much more valuable for me having it in an in-person thing. So I am looking forward to that as well. I don't know when I would next do it with what I'm doing now, but I would love to get back into a classroom and do some like hands-on experiments with kids. But we'll see what happens. The world can change very quickly. Yeah. So, what sorts of plans have you got for 2021? Do you think you're going to be, or are you already incredibly busy and all booked up? And I imagine.
Yeah, so we've got Science Week coming up, the 5th to the 14th of March. So that's always my busiest time of year. And Science Week is always a complete misnomer, actually, because it's always at least Science Month, because things spread out. And then actually, in terms of primary science, many primary schools actually decide to have a Science Week focus in the summer term, kind of after statutory assessments and things have happened. So things always get busy kind of from now on in. I am incredibly booked up around Science Week already. Even teachers are just phenomenal. They're, you know, planning amazing things for their children when they don't know if they're in class or not in class, and still pulling out all the stops and creating amazing things. So lots of stuff in the immediate future. I'm very much rolling with the punches, so I had to pivot very very suddenly back last March, as most of us did, and I'm just I'm really grateful for the opportunities that have kind of have come along, and getting involved in all sorts of different things, including the Global Science Show. So I do want to say thank you, Sam, for putting that together. It's been absolutely amazing, and to have had that, again, you say, you know, the Great Science Share pulled it out of the bag and put everything online, but you created this amazing global science show kind of seemingly out of thin air, so thanks for that.
Yeah, still one of those things that I thought it was just going to be a bit of fun. I'm furloughed from work, and yeah, here we are, like having a live chat about it over the internet. Who knew that 11 months later that we'd be doing this? It's just really exciting to see so many people that want to do like online science communication and engagement. And you mentioned teachers, and they are absolutely incredible. Our next guest on this on Thursday is going to be the founder of Amaze Lab, Leonie Briggs is going to be here, who's also a secondary school teacher. And I know just the number of opportunities that are being looked for to bring people into schools, to give kids the experiences that they might not have thought of before, or it's just amazing. So yeah, huge, massive well done to teachers everywhere, because they've had a hell of a job to be doing over the past 11 months. We're getting towards the end now. Like 25 minutes goes very, very quickly. Thank you, thank you so much for joining us to have a chat.
You're welcome.
I've popped in the banner at the bottom where people can find out more about you, which obviously you've got your Twitter handle there as well, and your website, which is drjoscienceSolutions.co.uk. There it goes. Yeah. So if people want to know more or want to find out what you do, they can go there to find out. Thank you so much once again for coming along and spending your lunchtime with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Sam. It's been really nice chatting with you.
No worries. I'm going to use the power that I have again to remove you. Goodbye. Thank you, folks, for joining us, for taking the time to spend your lunchtime with myself and Jo. This is part of the Global Science Show offer, if you want to call it that. We'll be back again on Thursday, and as I mentioned, we'll be here with Leonie Briggs, the founder of Amaze Lab. And today we've also just launched a website for the Global Science Show. There's nothing on it yet, but there's a Global Science Show website that exists. But we want to keep trying to build it to be bigger and better. If you would like to, I'm going to pop another little banner at the bottom. You can buy us a coffee if you'd like to help support the Global Science Show. The link is there, which is ko-fi.com. If you can't get it because it's going to disappear, I'll go old school, put a QR code up. If you want to scan a QR code. So you can do that now. You can do it if you're watching it back later, because some of you might be watching it at a later time. Hi, if you are. And now I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much, folks. We'll see you again on Thursday at 4 p.m. With Leonie Briggs from Amaze Lab. Have a great day.